Back to school has begun. And if you are like me, if you're like a lot of people who call Georgia home, it kind of starts to feel like the beginning of fall. And if you are like me and like a lot of people here in Georgia, that means it's kind of starting to feel like football season, like college football season is about to be upon us. We're joined right now by Marcus Greaves, who knows a thing or two about college football. He played, he covers it now, and he sits close to me in the newsroom, so I'm always just learning by osmosis from the expert here. And you spent the morning. Training camp has begun at Kennesaw State.
Yes,
You're
sir.
out this morning. What'd you see? What's the mood? What's the sense from this team that is in the second year of their head coach right now?
Yeah, well, of course, after 10 wins last season and their first ever bowl game, I mean, Kennesaw State, they're riding the high right now.
They had a great season.
They did. And they had some big games, too. But more importantly, it's one of those things where you want to keep that momentum going. And I think head coach Jerry Mack laid that foundation in his first season. Now they're heading into year two where, you know, at practice today, what we heard from a lot of the players and Coach Mack was, listen, last year was great, and we're very happy that we were able to dominate the way we did, have the success the way we did. But last year's success isn't going to do anything for us this year. So I know it's coach cliche talk, new season, new roster, especially with the transfer portal and things like that. But, you know, they're just excited to be back out there. And the energy felt high, but not too high where it was one of those things where you could tell they're like, oh, man, like, you know, let's bring the energy today. It's like, we know what we have to do. We're happy to be back out here. But, you know, it's a new season, which means there's going to be new challenges, but also new heights that we can reach. So it felt like they were really excited to be out there.
You know, we were talking off camera a second ago. We're starting to feel like old guys a little bit. You know, we like morning practice. And we like, you know, coach talk to me. I used to roll my eyes a little bit in school.
Mm-hmm.
The older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, okay.
Hey, I get it.
Give me some coach cliches. I like this. Kennesaw State, they're back. Obviously, Georgia Tech has also opened up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the outlook for Tech as they go into this season?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because last year Tech had a phenomenal start. I mean, best start in school history. And to be honest with you, when you had a guy like Haynes King at your quarterback, I mean, a guy that should have been on the Heisman watch the entire season. You lose a guy like that. They obviously fell off towards the end of the season, losing 4 tough games, losing their bowl game to BYU. But again, new season brings new challenges, but also new optimism. And, you know, Alberto Mendoza, younger brother of Fernando Mendoza, Heisman winner last year for Indiana, is probably going to be QB1, which is good, hey, that's exciting. DeAndre Hopkins comes in as an assistant wide receiver coach now. That's cool as well.
Talk about learning from some of the best.
I mean, and that's really all that matters. And Tech has some really cool games. You got Deion Sanders in Colorado coming to Bobby Dodd Stadium. Then you have Tennessee coming to Bobby Dodd Stadium. I mean, there's a lot of cool things going for Tech. Now, we don't really know the outlook of this roster just yet. I think that, like every other team, you feel really good about the transfer portal and the guys that you get. They got Justice Haynes, a local guy. He was at Alabama, was at Michigan, one of the best, in my opinion, probably the best running back in all of college football. You get a guy like that coming back home to Georgia Tech with Brent Key. It's going to be fun. I think Georgia Tech can have another very successful season. I don't know if it's going to be to the level of what we saw last season, but anything can happen in college football, man.
Let's dwell on that point for a second. And I want to ask you this question about both Kennesaw State and Tech, but we're talking about Tech, so let's start here. What are going to be the keys for success for Tech, particularly coming off of that season last year that saw some really high highs and some kind of gut punch lows?
Yeah, well, you know, Brent Key will say this too. It's always going to start in the trenches. Of course, he was an offensive lineman at Tech, but I'm not worried about the offensive and defensive line for Tech. I'm not worried about their run game. I'm very curious to see what Mendoza is going to do at quarterback. You know, I think that's going to be the most important thing because whether we all like to admit it or not, you're not going to have any success without good quarterback play. So if Mendoza, of course, can at least do somewhat of what his brother's going to do, I mean, I think Tech is going to be in a good position. But also, I'm curious to see what that wide receiver room is going to look like. You know, I think Tech lost some guys in the transfer portal. They lost some guys to graduation, moving on, whatever it is. So I'm curious to see that group and what that is going to be like. But, you know, if you're Tech, you got to start fast. I mean, you got some big games to start off the season. Like I said, you have Colorado. If you can get a big win against Deion and his squad, which they haven't been great, but A win like that will do wonders for you. And then I think personally, if you beat a team like Tennessee, Zach, you're off to the races, brother. I mean, that's a big SEC team coming into Bobby Dodd Stadium. I don't even know the last time that they played each other like that. So, especially in Bobby Dodd, that might be a question for our producer Megan, but she's grinding back there. So
she is grinding, and she just sneezed.
Bless you.
Don't say the folks behind the lens are not working hard. We'll any chance we get to get Megan on, we always love it. So Megan, the invite is there, but we know you're doing a lot. Marcus, let's shift gears now. Let's talk about Kennesaw State a little bit. Their season last year, was pretty electric.
It was.
They had a great year. 10 wins.
Yeah.
The keys to success this year, to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
What do they got to do?
Yeah. I think just keep that. They had the foundation, which is the most important thing. And it's tough anytime you get a new coaching staff because, again, Kennesaw State, once they bumped up to Division I, not D1AA, Division I Power 5, it was tough. It was tough for them where you see what they were able to do this last season, but that was a combination of getting guys in the transfer portal, which, again, head coach Jerry Mack said that after practice today, is that, listen, we finally got the chance to go get our guys. We had the chance to go in the transfer portal and really take the time and not feel rushed, handpick our guys. And he said one thing that really stuck with me was, like, you can't fall in love with the talent that you see in the transfer portal. You have to get the guys that fit your system. And he was saying that that's really what they did in this offseason, was not marry every guy that they could that had an unreasonable amount of talent, but really handpick the guys that they think were going to really fit their system. And, they did have their quarterbacks move on, which will be very interesting to see. Again, quarterback play I think is very important, but ultimately he was really high on his guys in the trenches. And I know we can kind of see it. We saw some of them just in that film that we had where, man, they got some big dudes now. Last season, head coach Jerry Mack was saying that we didn't have the size, but what we did have was the skill. I think this is something where he was saying we have the size and the skill now, which I think is going to be very important. Not to rant and ramble, but, man, college football is here, Zach. I'm excited for it.
First off, this is Georgia, all right? You can rant and ramble about college football as long as you want. I think if you listen to the radio, there's a whole industry dedicated to it. They've done great.
Right.
So we can always make some space for that in the stream pod here. You talk about the transfer portal. We're in a different era of college football, and even it feels like NIL opened the door, that Supreme Court decision. But even in the years following the decision in the NIL era continues to morph and evolve and change. How is that going to be a factor in this upcoming season?
I think it's going to be interesting to see when it comes to teams like Kennesaw State where, yes, of course, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Oregons, they're going to get those guys with the high NIL deals, the $1 million plus deals and whatnot. But for those guys who might be going to some schools and they don't do very well, not that they don't do very well, but they're not seeing as much playing time, maybe not as much NIL, this is a great chance for them to maybe bump down a level and go to a place like Kennesaw State and really shine. Then from there, unfortunately, you don't want Kennesaw State to be a stepping stone, but I went to Oregon State, brother. I already know how that goes, where you have success at a smaller school, and then you can take that next step. You're going to get paid more NIL money at the bigger school. So it's kind of the thing where, yes, the transfer portal might not be everybody's favorite. NIL might not be everybody's favorite. But I'll tell you this, if your guys are transferring out of the school, that's probably because they did really well, which ultimately means you're going to have team success. So it is tough. It is tough for us folks that went to smaller schools that would love to see our, Power 4-ish on the outside looking in school, be very successful. But NIL, I think, has opened the door for a lot of players to also have the power in their hands, which I think is very important as well.
Us folks who went to smaller schools, says a D1 guy and a D3 rower.
Hey, we talk about it. D3 rowing is challenging.
Hey, yeah, don't sleep on D3. The NIL money, believe it or not, hasn't quite made it to the NESCAC rowing circuit. But give us another 60 years, maybe we'll be there. Well, let me ask you this, Marcus, before we let you go. You gave us a good breakdown of the college football landscape in this new and constantly evolving era, talking about the interplay between the traditional big schools, the perennial powerhouses, and the evolving, trying to grow schools like Kennesaw State. Does this new environment, the transfer portal, the way it is currently situated, and the NIL environment, does it make it easier or harder for those striving schools to become powers in their own right.
I think personally it makes it easier because
Really?
I think that does.
You don't think they become kind of talent factories and their best always get poached?
Which they do, and that's the tough part. But also, it's going to be a cycling door, I guess, if that's the best way to say it, because you have talent, yes, leave, but also you got to think there's talent that's fourth, fifth string at Georgia, fourth, fifth string at Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, and they just want to play, and you got to get some NIL money somehow. So
and perhaps, I mean, in your theory, in your look of it, you see a place that's constantly producing folks who are, I don't want to say going to the next level, but they're performing and they're moving on.
Yeah.
And that creates a positive feedback loop for the school that's sending talent on elsewhere.
Yep. Some talent leaves, some talent comes in, and that's just going to be the harsh reality of those smaller schools.
Do they want to be that, though?
I don't think anybody wants to be that, but I think you have to embrace that. And I think if you don't, you are being a little delusional when it comes to college football. Because, again, let's just be realistic. Those top 10, top 25 teams, they're going to get the cream of the crop talent. They just are. Everybody else, unfortunately, you're going to have to get whatever is left over, but that's not like leftover is bad. I mean, if you're a Division I Power 5 player or you're a Division I player in general, you have talent, and you are good enough to play anywhere. I mean, it's just a matter of, are you going to be a starter or are you going to be a backup? If not, you're probably going to move on and want to go somewhere to go be a backup or be a starter somewhere else.
You know, something tells me the conversation about NIL and the transfer portal, this isn't going to be the only conversation we have about it.
No.
This is not going to be the only conversation had about it on college sports radio or on cable or anywhere else. I mean, look, this is the conversation. It's always going to be the conversation. Let's end on a non-controversial note here. Not that we've been deep in the controversy weeds.
Of course not.
You're a former college football player.
Yes, sir.
You love the game. You cover the game. Georgia's a great football state.
Yes.
Atlanta is a great football city. It is a statewide thing.
Yes.
When you get to this point of the year, when the calendar flips over and it's getting ready, camps back in session, classes are going to start up. I mean, it's feeling like college football season again. What does that do to you? You getting fired up?
Man, I mean, I'm telling you, I was out at practice. It does.
You ready to put the pads back on?
For a period of practice, yes. For about 5-10 minutes, I'll do some running back individual drills. That's about it.
You're not doing Oklahoma drills?
No.
I don't think you can do that anymore.
Yeah. I don't think they do that anymore. Hey, listen, we were talking about we're kind of the old heads now.
We were doing that in middle school.
Back in my day, that's what we did. We don't do that anymore. But it's an exciting time, and we could just end on this, man, is that being from the West Coast, coming here to see how Georgia football is, how it's played at every level is insane. I mean, seeing these high school kids now, these high school kids look like I did in college, like I said, as a Division I player. So the game has evolved. I was left in the dust, baby. So this is going to be a fun time. High school, college, NFL, you name it. Football is here, and of course, here in the South, we take it a little different.
It just means more.
It just means more, baby.
It just means more.
Let's go.
All right. Well, we know we can always have these conversations here in the Stream Pod. Left in the dust, Marcus? I don't know. I think you're being a little humble here.
Hey.
I think you're in a little more than that. We're going to continue this conversation later, Marcus. Thank you as always. Thanks for getting out there, going to practice this morning. And here's to a great football season. We're just getting started.
Let's do it, man.